Detailed into Home Economics presents World's Top Business and their Network.
Business is vital to a country's economy. Success of businesses can drive the success of an entire country, including through contributions to the gross domestic product or GDP of a nation, which affects the world's spending. It is directly related to the economic health and well-being of the citizens of the city, region, state, or country in which those businesses are active. Profitable businesses drive economic health, which translates to a better quality of life for the citizens. The success of business as a whole directly affects the world's economy. At its core, businesses are designed to serve a particular need that people have and to provide trusted goods and services related to that need. The number of businesses is also important. The more, the better. Economic diversification means less reliance upon one particular business or industry, and allows the region to better withstand the normal ups and downs associated with the cycle of doing business. There are many businesses around the world, extending varied services and provides different products varying with the rising and top needs. And one of it is Saudi Aramco.
How does Saudi Aramco begin?
Aramco is the state-owned oil company of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's the biggest oil company in the world, helping the country become the biggest exporter of crude oil. London, Hong Kong and New York stock exchanges are all wooing the oil powerhouse as Saudi Arabia's government looks to take a part of the company public. If that happens, it's set to be the largest IPO in history. Saudi Aramco was born in 1933 out of an agreement between Saudi Arabia and California-based oil company SoCal. This agreement, like many granted to big US and British oil companies at the time, gave it the exclusive right to explore and extract oil on Saudi territory. Originally called the California Arabian Standard Oil Company, it was renamed the Arabian American Oil Company in 1944, or as we now know it, by its acronym Aramco. For years, Aramco was run by a consortium of US oil companies, including the predecessors of Chevron, Texaco and ExxonMobil. But following the creation of OPEC, Saudi Arabia and several other oil-producing countries began nationalizing their natural resources. By 1980, the Saudi government had completed its buyout of Aramco's assets, eventually creating the Saudi Arabian Oil Company in 1988. Saudi Aramco's main business is pumping oil and then selling it around the world to customers in places like Japan, the US and China. Aramco reports vast oil reserves, which when compared to the largest energy companies, make them one of the biggest players in the world energy market. Beyond drilling, the company also refines crude into oil products like gasoline and chemicals. And in 2012, Aramco launched a new trading arm, which it says buys and sells about 1.5 million barrels of chemicals and polymer products every day. This helps keep more of that revenue in-house by reducing its reliance on outside traders. Working out Aramco's revenues, however, is a little more difficult. The sovereign-owned company has never published a financial report. Saudi officials say Aramco is set for a record $2 trillion valuation, but not everyone agrees, with some analysts slicing that valuation by half. A $2 trillion valuation means Aramco's market cap dwarfs the likes of Microsoft, Alphabet, and the world's most valuable publicly traded company, Apple. This financial strength was emphasized in a leaked earnings report, revealing a net income of $33.8 billion for the first half of 2017. The report, which was disputed by the company, showed they earned more than 4 times ExxonMobil, the world's biggest energy company by market cap. The report could offer potential investors a better understanding of the scale of Saudi Aramco ahead of its eagerly anticipated IPO. Aramco is expected to offer about 5% of the company to investors, with the proceeds from the sell-off to be funneled into non-oil sectors such as tourism, healthcare and mining. Aramco says it will list its public shares on the Saudi domestic stock exchange, the Tadawul. An international option is under active review, but concerns about whether the Tadawul can manage such a large offering has given global bankers and exchanges around the world the motivation to continue to lobby Aramco to also list with them. The UK's Financial Conduct Authority even created new rules that allowed sovereign-controlled companies, such as Aramco, to achieve a premium listing on the London Stock Exchange without following the usual rules and practices. When the IPO will take place is also unclear. Some analysts say the reality is that Riyadh is in no rush to privatise their crown jewel as oil prices rise once again. There are also some within the Saudi government that doubt the logic behind privatisation. Critics also believe that peak oil demand is a long way off and that selling even a small part of Aramco is a bad move. Helping decide when and where Aramco's historic IPO happen are CEO and President Amin Nasser and Saudi Energy Minister Khalid Al-Fallah. But it's the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman who will have the final say. The IPO is a big part of bin Salman's Vision 2030 and its effort to diversify Saudi Arabia's oil-dependent economy. Yet while the young heir is trying to move his country's economy away from hydrocarbons, Aramco's $2 trillion valuation will only be achieved if the company can show that their fossil fuel reserves that they are trying to diversify away from are still worth investing in. The trillions of dollars Riyadh is hoping to raise from the IPO would in theory increase support for privatising more of its economy, but it could also be critical for the future stability of the kingdom. Its success will ensure the ruling royal family's ability to maintain their social contract with its people, generous state handouts in return for political loyalty.
And these are some of the issues and hardships met by Saudi Aramco.
The coming down of crude prices over lack of global demand is putting pressure on the energy sector companies. Now reports say that oil giant Saudi Aramco has started laying off hundreds of employees this month. This comes as global energy companies are reducing their workforces in response to the coronavirus crisis. Most of these who have lost their jobs at Aramco were foreigners. Close to 500 people have already been laid off. The oil giant has more than 70,000 employees currently. Aramco also reduced capital spending for 2020 after the pandemic brought an unprecedented drop in oil demand and hammered crude prices. Oil majors have cut workforces by 10 to 15% to cut costs and as part of restructuring plans. Qatar Petroleum, one of the world's biggest energy companies, has also laid off foreigners and cut its spending plans to cope with the slump in oil and gas demand. Meanwhile, Kuwait, a key Gulf oil producer, has also planned to stop hiring foreigners for its oil sector for a year, according to the Kuwaiti oil minister. Companies across the globe are facing a highly complex and rapidly changing business environment caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and analysts say more job losses could be announced in the coming days.
And now, let us witness how they conquer and solve issues and hardships by the determination in heart and spirit to succeed.
The virus has infected the global economy, oil prices have nosedived, and the oil-rich kingdom of Saudi Arabia is bearing the brunt. It is now on a mission to cut costs and hike taxes to heal its bleeding economy. Here's a report.
Plummeting oil prices and an economic slump. Saudi Arabia is rich in oil resources, but the pandemic has squeezed its economy and the kingdom has been forced to cut costs. Strict measures have been announced to treat the infected economy. The value-added tax, or VAT, stands tripled from 5% to 15% starting July 1st. VAT was introduced by the kingdom 2 years ago to reduce reliance on global crude oil markets. Now it has been tripled. The VAT hike is just one of many such steps. Starting the 1st of June, a cost of living allowance for state workers will be suspended. Such measures were necessary to heal the bleeding economy. Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan has said in a statement, "These measures are painful but necessary to maintain financial and economic stability over the medium to long term, and to overcome the unprecedented coronavirus crisis with the least damage possible." The minister said there was an increase in spending due to pressure on the healthcare sector and the measures taken to support the economy. While the reduced economic activity affected non-oil revenues, the crisis led to a $9 billion budget deficit in the first 3 months of the year. Oil revenues in the first quarter fell by almost a quarter. The total revenue is down by 22%. The central bank witnessed its foreign reserves fall to their lowest level since 2011. In sharp contrast, Saudi Arabia's economy had a glorious 2019 thanks to the IPO of state-owned oil giant Aramco. The kingdom raised a record $25.6 billion. The move was part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's grand plans. He wanted to modernize the economy and reduce dependence on oil. But come 2020, those plans have gone for a toss. Saudi Arabia continues to pay the price for its reliance on oil revenue. The pandemic has had ripple effects for the global economy, and the world's largest oil exporter is bearing the brunt.
Ethics and governance of Saudi Aramco. Our ethics and compliance principles are deeply embedded within our corporate culture and form the basis for a set of policies, codes, and guidelines that guide and inform our employees as they implement the company's business strategies. The same components shape our compliance programs, which serve as the benchmark against which we measure our performance and that of our partners, contractors, consultants, suppliers, affiliates, and joint ventures within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Code of Business Conduct. Our behavior is what we define us, as a company, as employees, as people. Everything we do is anchored by our values: integrity, excellence, safety, accountability, and citizenship. Our values are the foundation of our code of business conduct and the way we do business. When faced with any decision, we consider how each option aligns with these values. The purpose of our code of business conduct is to help us fulfill the ethical commitments we have to make each other, our company, our stakeholders, and ourselves. Supplier Code of Conduct. Our Supplier Code of Conduct outlines mandatory policies on environmental, healthy, and safety issues, fair trade practices, ethical sourcing, conflicts of interest, bribery, kickbacks, gifts and fraud, monitoring and compliance. Saudi's Aramco Supplier Code of Conduct promotes our values and extends and maintains our ethical standards across the supplier network, enabling long-term, mutually beneficial partnerships.
They believe in the power of energy to transform lives, enhance communities, advance human progress, sustain our planet, and explorers at heart that drive to uncover the next frontier or solve the next big problems lies at the heart by the determination to succeed.